Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Ben Roy.
Hello there.
Hello! Now, we have both had some considerable time with a pre-build of Crash 4 It's About Time, and we're just going to break down all the stuff that stood out to us, because I think, I don't want to speak too early, but as I was playing it, I did kind of feel like maybe they've done it. Maybe they have managed to go back to this veteran, iconic franchise and continue it in a semi-natural way. It kind of feels like what a next installment of Crash Bandicoot, the main series, would be if you just wipe out everything else after Crash 3. Not having a big old poop all over something like Twinsanity, which I don't mind. But what was your general initial thoughts? I've got a lot of stuff to break down here, but how have you found the demo and stuff so far?
As someone who will poop over all those other games, past Crash Bash, that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Give me Remaster of Crash Bash first. But this game, no, I was so surprised that jumping into Crash 4, It's About Time, was just like playing the Sane Trilogy, but with a few extra bells and whistles. And those bells and whistles integrated so well to the experience, and Crash felt almost so like smooth and as good as before. There was something with some of the hang times and the jumps that I was a bit iffy with, and like depth perception that I had. But no, I thought they've actually done it. They've just made a sequel to Crash 3 Warped, and it's actually probably going to be pretty good.
It's lining up pretty well. I think that one of the biggest things is the way that Crash moves, the general sense of weight that he has and momentum. Like once you set him in motion, you kind of have to kick him back out of the animation that he's moving into. It's like, it is a different sensation like compared to the Sane Trilogy, but some quality of life stuff that initially or immediately stood out to me is like now he has a landing marker directly below him, like a yellow circle that tells you exactly where he's going to land. And there's no option to turn that off yet, but it might just be in the pre-built thing that we've had access to. Wumpa Fruit now magnetizes to you, so you can just smash crates as you run, which we've waited, 25 years for that?
I tell you what, I kept running after the Wumpa Fruit, after it did every box, and it took me ages to just get over and like, no, don't worry, the fruit come to you now. Yeah,
it like totally benefits like speedrunners and stuff. And the new life system, it's called Modern and Retro. You have an option. If you do the modern one, deaths only count up, so you're more just trying to get a certain score based on how many times you die on a level, as opposed to having to restart the whole thing when you run out of lives. You can set it to retro though if you do want to do it old school, but for me that's just perfect because a lot of the platforming gauntlets in this are way tighter than anything that was in the original trilogy, which we'll get to in a sec. Another couple of things in terms of quality of life stuff is hitboxes. One of the biggest problems with the Insane Trilogy was that in Vicarious Visions remastering or remaking the original levels, when they rebuilt the hitboxes underneath the world geometry, it was super easy for Crash to just slide off because they had to round out things that on the PS1 were squared off, which is a weird, very specific technical thing. But if the edge of a cliff was literally a square beforehand, and when they rounded it off, it meant that when you were landing on the edge of that cliff, it was super easy for Crash to just miss it altogether. Which, if you play something like High Road, really stood out to a lot of people, including me, Jules, and we did a lot of coverage on it back then. And the only last thing in terms of quality of life stuff is checkpoints. You pointed out before we started recording that the way they've changed the checkpoints is that you do have the checkpoint crates, but you also get a separate checkpoint if you pick up one of the masks, one of the power-up masks, and sometimes before certain enemies as well. They sort of know when you're going to die, and they're not abusing the player's time by kicking you back to the start. All of those things combined, I love everything that they've added to it. It still feels like Crash, but with like a modern sensibility. Is that the kind of feeling that you got too?
Yeah, and one thing that I was kind of surprised by is that it's still hard. I was expecting this to maybe sort of like, especially after feedback that Crash 1 was extremely hard for some people in the Insane Trilogy. I thought it was going to be not dumbed down, but sort of like more brought to a more rounded off level. But no, there was bits like in the dinosaur level where you had to sort of jump on the platform, skid under, jump again, avoid a fireball coming up at the same time, like several times in a row, or freezing platforms to get across, and you literally cannot make a mistake or you're going to die midway through, like me double jumping when you shouldn't be. There were some challenges, and like as someone who would say this, don't play this when you're tired because you'll die loads.
There's one thing you mentioned, the platform stuff. There's some certain platform gauntlets, the way that they're set out, that almost messes with your mind. Like obviously you have, I know that behind the scenes Toys for Bob talked to some ex-Naughty Dog members to sort of, or at least it was one member who worked on the team to just say, look, are we getting this right in terms of the way that Crash feels and the way that he looks and the general sort of mentalities that go into the way the levels are put together. And there is a part of the Dino Dash level where you're trying to land on platforms in a row, but you're sliding under something as you land on the platform. Yeah. So it looks like like a straight obstacle, but you have to go straight through it. Little things like that sort of point to that like veteran sensibility where they've kind of applied like years worth of knowledge. And they had a hand. Obviously, they built the Sane Trilogy, so they have a lot to bring across from that. You can also play it as Neo Cortex. We did one level as him, which fleshes out like there's an explosion that goes off in one of the crash levels, and then you realize what Cortex was doing to like lead to that point where he was the one who detonated the thing. But you get to play as Cortex beforehand. How do you find Cortex's stuff?
Cortex is funny because like, I just wasn't expecting him to be as agile, and I didn't notice the gun in his hand for a second. This little blaster that you can use to like sort of change animals.
You can dash as well
into platforms, and yeah, that dash is really sort of useful in a way. Like, oh god, Cortex, like because he's not wearing a little jetpack or anything, so I just was expecting him just to be a frail old man. But no, Cortex handled really well, and it gets me excited for the other characters that they're going to have in the game, like say the legendary Dingo Dal. Is he going to have some sort of excellent move that makes him the best thing in Crash Bandicoot history? And I can't remember her name. Crash's ex-girlfriend.
There's Torna, who's like the new sort of Mad Max version of Torna, which is just my new spirit animal, to be honest. I'm already married, but holy hell.
I can't wait to see like how she handles and like some of the extra stuff she can do. I think she's like a hook or something from the.
She's got a grappling hook, and she has like melee, like punches and kicks and stuff. But they're definitely like fleshing out each character. I mean, like we only got to play as Crash and Cortex, but Cortex's stuff was a bit more side on in terms of the way the level was laid out. And you were doing like dashes and bounces. You can the gun that he has converts animals into different types of platform. So like if you hit them twice, they become big sort of bouncy pads. You can use them to get around. And there were a couple of different paths through the levels as well. On Crash's side, the way that they fleshed him out is through the masks. And the two that we got were there's like a time slow one and like a dimension shift one where you're sort of time slow is pretty easy. You just press R2, and then like you said before, like the platforms freeze in midair. But then there is the one where you paradigm shift and you can change like which boxes appear or which obstacles are in the way. What did you think of that stuff and the way that they kind of tie it to like the slides and stuff as well in the Dino level?
Not gonna lie, when I saw these new masks, I was a bit skeptical. Like, oh, I just want Aku, and I just want him to be around and go bully buga. But they
have changed that.
They've changed that as well. The time stuff worked surprisingly well. Like the anything was like I would mess it up. Like oh, I've got to wait like 3 seconds for the platform to reappear. God damn it! I just want it to be faster. But it just added another depth to the platform that you had to like think more of. And the dimension shift one was also. I need to see that in more than we saw for now. It just seemed like transforming boxes in and out. It didn't really seem that impactful. But the time stuff, I was just really impressed with, and I think really fits in and just is another layer on this Crash cake that makes it like. I mean, I could have just had basically what Warped was, but this is like. This new stuff isn't hindering the game at all, and I think it's actually excelling it to another level.
I like that in terms of like, because like Warped sort of like brought in the idea that you can literally go wherever. They can do whatever level they want in whatever time period they want. And this is the same case. Like when you do the Dino level, it pops up saying that it's like 54 million years BC or something.
Yeah.
And then like the snow level, I forget exactly when that's set, but I like that they can just drop in wherever you want. And yeah, in terms of just the level design and stuff, they've still got the level where you're running away from like a dinosaur. They still have that stuff, which that seems to be one of the only like Crash level types that divides people. I don't know where you come down on that stuff.
I love them.
Okay. Yeah, when that kicked off, I was like, okay, they're still going to do this stuff. Like, it's still going to kind of be what you remember for Crash. In terms of the hitboxes as well, though, I did find, not that I'm complaining about this, but like they did let you sort of, it's like coyote time is the dev term for when you run off the edge of something, but you can still jump. And they're super generous with this. I kind of feel like they've deliberately gone like, okay, a lot of people didn't like the hitboxes in the Sane Trilogy, so we're going to be like incredibly nice about the way that this stuff's laid out. Was your like overall, I guess, thoughts on that? And you mentioned the bonus stage as well, the way that they've kind of rejiggered the bonus stage to be more like a puzzle level, like combined. There's quite a lot of stuff going on in terms of the way that you just play Crash.
There were some enemies, like there was that flying beetles that I wasn't sure how or if I could take them out for a minute, and then I think at the front you can't, but around everywhere else you can if you spin them. The hitbox very generous, but at the same time I was also dying a lot, especially on that dinosaur level, just going through and trying to avoid the beetles and then getting hit by a plant that spits at you.
That thing sucks.
Yeah, it's like go sort of tease it in, go back, slap the bug out of the way, jump over and spin the plant. But the bonus stage as well that we got to play, unlike crashes from games past, it seemed pretty more in depth. Like I know you have the bonus stages where they were so easy, you just go through a couple jumps you've done. But I don't know if you remember like the skull stages. It felt like they were mixing the bonus and the skull platform things together to make it a bit more in-depth and challenging. Like you do a sequence which is pretty simple, and then you get to the point where you've just got to keep moving because you're running on TNT basically. So
I did like that when you do that, if you put the time slow power on, you can run straight over nitrous because you get past it before it explodes. Little things like that sort of make you like reapproach the mentality that you have in Crash, where like you're staying away from nitrous stuff, or you're trying to slide like underneath TNT crates and stuff like that. You can kind of steer into that when you have the time powers instead. Overall, I mean, this isn't sponsored coverage whatsoever, but I'm just beaming on it. I was completely like, it's something that I've been looking forward to for a while. I know you have as well. And like when we finally got hands on with it, it's just considering how many weird and naff sequels there have been across the 2000s. It feels like all of the Activision remakes and remasters are hopefully moving towards this, where they can take those teams and then go, okay, you've learned all the lessons of the past, do something new. And this actually just felt like they kind of nailed it.
When do we get the Crash Spyro crossover though? Do you think that's after this?
I would hope so. I mean, he was already. Spyro was already in Crash Team Racing, so they've done a little bit of crossover. But you have to hope that it's leading towards stuff like that. Yeah,
I'm really excited to see all the character work as well. Like seeing, I think like character like Entropy come back and just him being angry all the time, and like Dr. Engine getting back involved, and seeing like how Coco like. I would like to see Coco speak more and like say like, hey, we beat you up, Dingo Doll. What you doing? I don't know, mate. Sort of thing.
See, I think if they've done, because they've done with Torna, they've got like alternate reality versions of them, or alternate dimension versions. If they can make like a Mad Max Torna, then maybe they can do like a way more sort of meek version of Engine or something like that. But yeah, for everything that we've played so far, and it's like 3 levels. It was Snow Way Out, the Dino Chase, and then the Snow Way Out version with Cortex. But you switch back to Crash after playing as Cortex. We came away both pretty positive on it, but we'll keep on whatever else comes out beforehand. I think this build is also the one that will become the demo you can get if you pre-order. But I could be wrong. But either way, we'll keep up with stuff towards when the actual game comes out. For now, though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
And I've been Ben Roy.
And we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye, Booga.